AOC, and let me know if you believe this, is saying that MAGA Republicans are coming up to her and say, man, I was wrong about Trump. I'm with socialism now. Do you buy that?
Absolutely not. In fact, I'd like to see some of the people who actually said that to AOC and check their ballots and see if they actually voted for President Trump, because I can assure you MAGA Republicans oppose everything that AOC and the modern day Communist Democrat Party stands for. Mass migration and open borders like we saw under the Biden administration. Men and women's sports is something MAGA Republicans and frankly the whole country rejects. It's a 90-10 issue. Taxing people to death and taking their money and giving the majority of your income back to the government. That's a horrible idea that has not worked for thousands of years.
AOC is claiming that several MAGA voters now regret voting for President Trump and are prepared to shift their support to the DNC in 2028. But Caroline Leavitt isn't buying it. She says AOC is completely wrong and fired back with what many are calling one of the most scorching clapbacks of the year. As always, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, right here, right now.
Fully welcome Trump voters into our coalition. And I know that sounds crazy to some people, but just hear me out. I cannot tell you, it just happened to me like 2 weeks ago. I can't tell you how many times someone has pulled me aside and said either I was once a big Trump voter and a Trump supporter, but then I started to kind of expand my world and where I got information, and now I've learned and now I've changed.
That's what AOC claimed when she took to social media, arguing that many Trump voters support him simply because they spend all day watching Fox News and absorbing talking points without thinking for themselves. In her view, it couldn't possibly be because people felt the economic strain under Biden, with rising grocery costs, higher gas prices, and rent becoming unaffordable, nor because voters were pushed toward Trump by what many see as an avalanche of woke policies from the Biden administration that feel disconnected from everyday reality. Instead, AOC dismisses it all as media brainwashing, but that smug explanation didn't go unanswered. Caroline Leavitt quickly caught wind of the comments and delivered a fiery, no-nonsense response that flipped AOC's narrative on its head and called out the arrogance behind it.
Caroline Leavitt is here. All right, Caroline, who would this White House rather deal with in the Senate, Chuck Schumer or AOC?
Well, the president just dealt with Chuck Schumer, and President Trump and Republicans shellacked Chuck Schumer and the entire Democrat Party. After 43 days of Chuck standing out there trying to bravely hold the country hostage and inflict massive pain on the American public, Chuck got absolutely nothing, and now the knives are out for him. As you can see, Jesse, as you just perfectly laid out in your monologue, the Democrat Party is in complete disarray, and the truth is, they have been for 10 years since President Trump came on the political scene.
That much is undeniably true. The DNC has been in a state of turmoil ever since Trump announced his intention to run for president again. From that moment on, strategy gave way to uncertainty, resulting in one scramble after another. It helps explain the non-stop wave of allegations aimed at him, followed by high-profile investigations and trials that promised explosive revelations, but ultimately delivered little to nothing. It also explains the years-long Russia collusion narrative that dominated headlines, which many Republicans argue never produced the evidence Democrats claimed it would. Add to that the constant barrage of insults and derogatory labels, as if name-calling could replace a compelling message, and yet none of it has worked. Despite the scandals, courtrooms, and media firestorms, nothing seems to stick, as repeated attacks have failed to weaken Trump's base or slow his momentum. If anything, they appear to have strengthened his support and revealed just how shaken his opponents truly are.
stand for anything good. They just stand for Donald Trump is bad. That's the only thing that unifies their party. And now you see how far they are moving to the left. They ran Senator Gillibrand and Senator Manchin out of town. Now they're running Chucky Schumer out of town. It's too bad he turned into a Palestinian. He did it for nothing, like President Trump says, because his own party is turning against him. And the Democrat Party is truly becoming a full-blown communist party.
Caroline Leavitt openly criticizes Democratic Party leaders for losing control of their own base, arguing that the party has drifted so far to the left that even longtime power brokers like Chuck Schumer now appear out of step with the activists they once led. According to her, the most extreme voices are now calling the shots, with party leadership no longer setting the agenda, but instead reacting to the loudest and most radical figures online and in the streets. Leavitt claims Democratic leaders are being pushed out in real time for not being woke enough, where a single misstep or moment of moderation is enough to label them as sellouts or traitors. In her view, this internal chaos reveals a party turning on itself, consumed by ideological purity tests rather than focused on governing. And as Democrats continue to fight among themselves, she says voters are watching closely and quietly tuning out a party that no longer seems to know who it represents.
See, and let me know if you believe this, is saying that MAGA Republicans are coming up to her and say, man, I was wrong about Trump. I'm with socialism now. Do you buy that?
Absolutely not. In fact, I'd like to see some of the people who actually said that to AOC and check their ballots and see if they actually voted for President Trump, because I can assure you MAGA Republicans oppose everything that AOC and the modern day communist Democrat Party stands for. Mass migration and open borders like we saw under the Biden administration, men and women's sports is something MAGA Republicans and frankly the whole country rejects. It's a 90-10 issue. Taxing people to death and taking their money and giving the majority of your income back to the government. That's a horrible idea that has not worked for thousands.
Caroline Leavitt brings a knife to a stone fight, completely dismantling AOC's claim that MAGA supporters somehow regret voting for Donald Trump. She doesn't just dismiss the argument, she demands proof. Real names, real numbers, real evidence, and suggests that, knowing AOC, none of that is likely to appear anytime soon. Instead of vague anecdotes and social media fantasies, Leavitt reminds AOC and the broader Democratic Party why so many Americans rallied behind Trump in the first place. It wasn't an accident, but a reaction to aggressive woke policies pushed by the DNC that left everyday voters shaking their heads. From men competing in women's sports to medical transitions for minors, and a party drifting toward what many see as open socialism, Leavitt argues these issues continue to alienate large portions of the electorate. Ignoring those concerns, she warns, doesn't make them disappear. It only drives more voters away. And if Democrats keep doubling down, the political consequences could be severe.
Republicans know it, and that's why they overwhelmingly voted to re-elect President Trump. And a Democrat that you had in your monologue actually was right about one thing. I don't know his name, but I give him credit for his statement where he said that the Republican Party under President Trump is the party of the working man and woman. And because of President Trump's pro-growth, America First policies, he has spoken directly to the hearts of the forgotten men and women across this country. And that's who the Republican Party is today.
Leavitt is right, and this is the part Democrats still refuse to understand. Trump didn't win by chasing Twitter applause or elite approval. He spoke directly to middle America, to undecided voters, and to people who felt ignored, talked down to, and squeezed from every direction. He connected with the frustrations of working-class Americans worried about jobs, rising prices, safety, and stability, using language they actually recognized. Meanwhile, Harris and the DNC focus their message on coastal elites, corporate donors, and the loudest woke fringes online, offering lectures, labels, and moral posturing instead of bread and butter issues. That disconnect mattered. When everyday Americans felt dismissed or mocked, Trump made them feel seen and heard, even if they didn't agree with him on everything. In the end, elections aren't won through virtue signaling or carefully curated talking points. They're won by connecting with real people living real lives. And that connection is where Trump succeeded and where the DNC fell short.
Speaking to the people of Brazil, he's a big hot shot. He went down to Latin America. He's talking about global warming. But he could be in a little bit of trouble because the Biden-Harris Justice Department initiated a criminal investigation into his right-hand woman. What do you think that means?
Well, we'll have to see, and I'm very curious. I'll have to find out from our great Attorney General Pam Bondi if the Trump DOJ is continuing this investigation that the Biden DOJ launched. Jesse, it's a good question, and we will get on that. But as for Gavin Newsom, I was not surprised to see him in Brazil, traveling the world, probably on the taxpayer dime, talking about climate change when his state, California, has some of the highest energy costs in the entire.
Caroline Leavitt also takes aim at Gavin Newsom, calling out what she describes as peak political hypocrisy. She criticizes Newsom for repeatedly lecturing Americans about saving the planet while overseeing one of the highest energy cost environments in the country. According to Leavitt, it's easy to preach climate virtue from a podium while working families are stuck paying outrageous electricity and gas bills just to keep the lights on. She argues that Newsom's green agenda may sound noble in theory, but falls apart in practice, especially for working-class Californians who can't afford solar panels, electric vehicles, or other luxury alternatives. Rather than making life more sustainable, Leavitt says these policies are making it more expensive and less livable, framing the issue as a classic elite disconnect, leaders pushing feel-good environmental slogans while everyday people bear the financial burden. In her view, Californians aren't rejecting environmental responsibility. They're rejecting leaders who prioritize ideology over affordability and common sense.
The highest gasoline prices in the entire country, despite President Trump's efforts. And they are working to bring down oil and gas prices in this country, to drill, baby, drill, to unleash American energy dominance. Gavin has done so much damage to his state with the Green New scam and with this utopian pursuit of climate change that is just so false. It's built on a fallacy that he has run up energy costs in his state that people.
Caroline argues that the evidence is impossible to ignore, as families and businesses are leaving California in growing numbers because they can no longer withstand crushing taxes, endless regulations, and suffocating bureaucracy. For small business owners in particular, she says it has become a relentless uphill battle, with permits, compliance costs, and mounting tax bills stacking up until the numbers simply no longer work. In her view, Gavin Newsom appears largely unconcerned, choosing to double down on these policies rather than easing the burden or reconsidering their impact. The result, she argues, is entirely predictable. Companies pack up and relocate to states with lower taxes, fewer regulatory hurdles, and more business-friendly environments. Leavitt frames this as a clear failure of leadership, noting that when jobs leave, communities suffer and tax bases shrink. Yet California's leaders continue to act surprised by outcomes that many saw coming all along. At some point, she contends, denial stops being leadership and starts looking like indifference.
Maybe he should leave Brazil and stop talking about this issue that is hurting his own people and get back to governing what was once a beautiful state of California that people are fleeing en masse because of his horrific energy and economic policies that have made the cost of living in California completely out of control.
Yeah, the climate scam's kind of like DEI. It's dead, and it's never coming back. Caroline, great to see you as always. Have a great.
Caroline has essentially voiced what millions of Californians are already thinking. Gavin Newsom needs to stop chasing headlines and start focusing on what actually matters to the people living in his state. That means getting serious about lowering the crushing cost of living that forces families into impossible monthly choices, cutting back bloated bureaucracy that slows growth, drives up expenses, and suffocates small businesses, and increasing reliable energy production instead of pushing policies that make power more expensive and less dependable. Above all, it means easing the tax burden that continues to push residents and employers out of California altogether. Caroline's message is straightforward. Leadership isn't about lofty rhetoric or national grandstanding, but about making life more affordable and sustainable for everyday people. Until Newsom shifts his priorities toward these basics, the exodus will continue and Californians will keep paying the price for political stubbornness. Taken together, the picture becomes clear. Democrats like AOC and Gavin Newsom keep offering excuses, narratives, and slogans while voters demand real results. Caroline Leavitt's message cuts through the noise. People didn't turn to Trump because of Fox News or misinformation, but because their lives became harder, more expensive, and more unstable. The DNC's fixation on woke purity tests, soaring taxes, and ideological crusades has left working Americans behind. And until party leaders confront the real reasons voters are fed up, no amount of spin will stop the political